The sun wasn't even up yet when I heard those stomping footsteps on the sidewalk out front, the kind that just sound angry, like the ground itself is tired of getting pounded. I looked out my living room window, and sure enough, there was Patricia Thornberry, the HOA president from hell, marching down Maple Grove Lane with her clipboard hugged tight against her chest like a shield. Patricia's got this face she makes, mouth pinched, eyes narrowed, and you just know somebody's about to have a bad day. Usually it's over garbage cans left out too long or somebody's dog barking, but this time I could see she was heading straight for my driveway, zeroed in on my son Jake's patrol car, which was parked right next to my old sedan. She started snapping photos like she was collecting evidence for the Supreme Court, muttering under her breath about flagrant violations and no respect for community standards. She didn't care who heard her. Right then, Jake stepped out still in his boots from a long night shift, looking half awake but somehow a little amused, and as soon as Patricia caught sight of his sheriff's department badge, her whole attitude changed faster than a summer thunderstorm. She sort of shrank back but tried to keep her bravado. "Let me back up a sec. I'd just gotten back from visiting my sister down in Florida, and Jake had surprised me by taking a few days off. He'd just made deputy at the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, 24 years old, and let me tell you, I was proud, but I still worried every time he left for work. Having him home, even for a couple days, meant the world. He'd parked his patrol vehicle in our driveway, totally allowed by the way the department wants the cruisers visible to discourage crime, but if you know Patricia, you know logic never stood a chance. That morning I found a bright purple slip of paper tucked under Jake's windshield full of her looping handwriting and highlighter marks. Bylaw 17.3b she'd written said, "No non-standard vehicles in plain sight." I actually laughed. See, I used to sit on the HOA board years ago, and I know for a fact 17.3b is about pool maintenance, not vehicles. Patricia has this habit of just making up rules whenever she wants. I crumpled the notice, tossed it, figured she'd get bored and pick on someone else. Man, was I wrong. By lunchtime, there were 2 more notices, each one more dramatic than the last. The final one threatened immediate towing if we didn't move the commercial vehicle in 24 hours. That night, just as Jake and I were sitting down to dinner, the doorbell rang with that aggressive, angry rhythm only Patricia uses. She was standing there with her clipboard, and behind her was Harold Finch, the guy who calls himself compliance coordinator, but really just likes following Patricia around and nodding. She didn't wait for me to say a word. "This is your final warning," she barked. "That vehicle needs to be removed immediately, or I'll have it towed at your expense. Pine Valley Estates has standards, and we're not about to let people think they're above the rules." I tried to keep calm, but my patience was running on fumes. "Patricia, that's my son's patrol car. He's a sheriff's deputy. He's allowed to park it here." She actually snorted. "I mean, who does that?" and said, "I don't care if he's the governor. HOA rules apply to everyone. No commercial vehicles in driveways. Period." I said, "It's not a commercial vehicle, Patricia. It's a law enforcement vehicle. And even if your rule was real, which it isn't, it wouldn't apply to emergency services." Her eyes got real small, like she was trying to burn a hole through me. "I've been president for 8 years, she snapped. "I know every rule, every bylaw. You are in violation, Mr. Morrison." Harold started nodding even faster, but I doubt he's read anything more complicated than a cereal box. Then she hit me with the threat I've already called premier towing. They'll be here first thing in the morning to remove that eyesore. The $250 tow fee plus a $300 fine will be added to your HOA dues. I could feel my jaw clench. "Patricia, I'm telling you nicely, leave my property. That car isn't going anywhere, and you or any tow driver don't have the authority to touch it." She smirked that smug little smile of hers and said, "We'll see about that. 8 a.m. sharp. I'd move it if I were you." And with that, she and Harold stormed off. Jake found the whole thing funny. "Don't worry, Dad," he said, "I'll handle it." Next morning, just before 8, Patricia showed up with Harold in tow, in the tow truck, a big guy named Tony behind the wheel. Patricia was practically vibrating with excitement, lining up her phone to film what she thought was going to be her big victory. But Jake just walked right out, jeans and a polo, but badge in hand. He smiled at Tony and said, "Morning. I'm Deputy Morrison, Riverside County Sheriff's Department. What's going on?" Tony looked from Jake to the patrol car to Patricia. "I got a call about an illegally parked vehicle. Lady says it's got to go." Jake handed him his ID and said, "That's my assigned patrol vehicle, sir. Here's my credentials." Tony's face went white. "Nope, not touching a cop car. Sorry, lady, you're on your own." And with that, he jumped back in his truck and just left. I swear Patricia's face went from smug to red to purple in about 2 seconds flat. She spun on Jake, sputtering, "You can't do that. This is HOA business." Jake kept his cool, real professional. "Ma'am, the HOA has no authority to remove law enforcement vehicles unless it's specifically in the covenants, which it isn't. And filing a false tow request is actually a misdemeanor. Harassing law enforcement is a dangerous game." Patricia opened and closed her mouth like a goldfish out of water, and Harold suddenly found something fascinating about the neighbor's grass. "This isn't over," she finally hissed. "I'm calling an emergency board meeting. We'll see what the HOA has to say." And off she stomped. You'd think that'd be the end, but you don't know Patricia. She called that meeting for Thursday, sent out dramatic notices about a critical compliance issue threatening the integrity of Pine Valley Estates. Half the neighborhood showed up just to see what the fuss was about. She gave this long speech about dangerous precedents and property values, and even put up photos of Jake's car like it was a crime scene. If we let one person break the rules, where does it end? Today it's a police car, tomorrow it's a taco truck. That's when Margaret Chen lives 3 doors down. Sweetest lady you'll ever meet. Raised her hand and said, "Actually, I feel safer with a deputy's car parked here. Doesn't that help property values?" Murmurs of agreement went around. Patricia got flustered. "That's not the point. Rules are rules." Robert Banks, the HOA treasurer, chimed in. "Patricia, what rule exactly? I've never seen anything about law enforcement vehicles." Patricia started flipping through her papers, muttering, "It's in bylaw 17.3b. Robert pulled out his phone and searched. "Patricia, 17.3b is about pool chemical storage." The whole room burst out laughing. Patricia went red as a tomato. "That must be an old version," she snapped, but the crowd was turning. Tom Washington yelled from the back, "Why can't people just park what they want on their own property?" Then people started bringing up other times Patricia had fined folks for mailbox colors or kids' bikes out front. And before you knew it, Margaret made a motion to vote Patricia out as president. When the count came in 38-5, Patricia was out. She looked like she'd swallowed a lemon, but she wasn't done yet. She said, "Fine, I'll call the real authorities." 2 days later, a city code enforcement officer named Kay Williams knocked on my door. He looked so tired. "Got a complaint about an illegally parked emergency vehicle." He sighed. Jake flashed his badge. "That's my car, sir, Riverside County." Williams just groaned. "Let me guess. Patricia Thornberry." I nodded. He said, "She's called us 15 times this month, everything from grass being too long to garden gnomes in the wrong direction." He made some notes, then added, "Just so you know, she's getting fined $50 for every false report. $750 so far." He shook his head and left. That should have been the end, but things took a wild turn. Turns out Patricia had been fabricating all sorts of violations for years, pocketing the fines instead of depositing them into the HOA's account. Robert, the treasurer, caught on while reviewing the books, over $20,000 missing. Real authorities got involved, this time 2 detectives' unmarked car, the whole neighborhood watching. Patricia tried to sneak out the back door, but they caught her. I'll never forget the sight: Patricia, the queen of the clipboard, being walked out in handcuffs, her hair a mess, mumbling about just trying to maintain standards. The trial was quick. The judge didn't buy any of her excuses about protecting property values. She got 3 years in prison and had to pay back every cent. As she was led out, she looked over her shoulder at all of us, pale and shaking, and just whispered, 3 years. But I was just trying to keep things nice. So yeah, Pine Valley Estates is a lot quieter these days. People actually wave at each other now. Our new HOA president, Margaret, brings cookies to meetings, not subpoenas. And Jake, he parks wherever he wants. Tell me, do you think Patricia deserved what she got? Or did the neighborhood go too far? Let's hear it. Who was right? Who was wrong? And what would you have done if it were your driveway? Drop a comment below, share your story, and don't forget to subscribe if you want more real-life HOA insanity.